Our second day, we are going to be talking about connected and automated driving. And once again, I remind everyone to share on social media using the hashtag EUCAD2023. Somewhat fewer than yesterday. Perhaps too much fun was had last night at Autoworld, at least I certainly hope so. My name is Jennifer Baker, if you weren't here yesterday. I'm a tech policy journalist based here in Brussels, and I will be guiding you through today's agenda, which, as yesterday, we will start with some keynotes, we will have plenary panel discussions here in this room, and then we will move into the breakout rooms once again. And in those breakout sessions, some of them will be using Slido, but we'll give you more details on how to connect to that as we go along or as you go into those sessions. Yesterday, with some very good conversations, I think, talking about safe, smart, resilient mobility and sustainable transport for all. We will develop further on that theme today. I think one of the red threads that came through yesterday was about the need to scale up from research to actual deployment and to bring everyone along for the ride, pun intended, because we want it to be inclusive and to bring all of society along with us. We're going to take stock once again of the research, policy and regulatory developments. We're looking again at how public and private work together, and indeed how the CCAM partnership has been successful, but also what we could do moving forward into the future. And of course, I'm sure you have come armed with questions about how to overcome those barriers that we see ahead of us. So we're going to try and discuss some of the roadblocks and how to move them out of the way. Once again, today, we have got the vehicles outside the Berlaymont building. If you didn't get a chance to see them yesterday, they will be there again today for most of the day, so please go and take a look at those. And importantly today, as it is the second day, we will be asking you to fill out a feedback questionnaire. I'll tell you more about that at the end of today. We're going to kick off with a couple of keynote presentations. I'm delighted to welcome Christian Scharnhorst, who is the Vice Chair of the CCAM organisation. He is seconded from Bosch, and after more than 20 years at Bosch, he certainly knows a thing or two about urban mobility and about automotive driving. He is actually working on the leadership team for Bosch for automated driving since 2019. Before that, he was involved in innovative powertrain solutions and headed the Department for Automotive Marketing. So Christian, please, the floor is yours.
Me? Oh, now. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome on this fine and sunny day in Brussels. It's the second and final day of this year's conference on connected and automated driving, the EUCAD 2023. It's good to see that many found the way back, also on the second and final day. And we have, of course, not only people here gathered in the room, but there is also many people joining us online today. Yesterday, we already had some important discussions. Firstly, in the plenary sessions, data sharing, synergies between research and deployment were the topics. Secondly, during breakout sessions, effects of CCAM on sustainability, CCAM hosting infrastructures and preparing cities for CCAM. In the afternoon, we opened the public consultation of our CCAM updated strategic research and innovation agenda, in short, SRIA. It is important to mention in this forum, as you are the main stakeholders, you are invited thus to share your opinion in this consultation. The updated edition will determine the course for the second half of the Horizon Europe program. We are looking forward to receiving your feedback until end of May. If you don't have a copy of our current SRIA, please pick up an edition at the CCAM partnership stand in the break area. Also, if you don't need a hard copy, you're of course invited to visit the booth to share your thoughts, exchange information, ask questions, or just to have an informal chat. Last evening, it was great to see all the started CCAM partnerships projects during the exhibition in Autoworld. What a marvelous place to spend an evening. Thanks to the organizers of EUCAD for arranging this amazing reception and the hospitality. I would like to thank the European Commission. With their initiative and support, we were able to put the SECAM partnership in place. This assures that connected, cooperative, and automated mobility research in Europe is coordinated and projects are forming and growing to a bigger picture. Personally, I joined the SECAM partnership mid-last year. Herewith, I would like to thank our key person in the Commission, Andrea Di Candido, for helping me aboard, and his dedication to constructive cooperation with the whole SECAM board. In general, I would like to extend my gratitude to all other people working with us to make automated mobility getting traction in Europe. Among them, with priority, all other Commission's representatives from DG RTD and DG Move, the Executive Group, the Partnership Board, as well as the whole community, the SECAM Association. Since the founding of the SECAM Partnership, we have been working intensely and trustfully together with AirTrack to Zero and other partnerships to align and maximize synergies. Overall, we, as the SECAM board, enjoy a confiding base of cooperation and constructive work spirit with all stakeholders. I can say proudly that many parties from abroad look at this with envy. By mentioning that, I'm speaking here as well for my dear board colleagues, Armin Greta and Serge van Dam. However, there is headwind too. All players are currently suffering from difficulties to carry the huge investments needed mainly for the electrification of road vehicles, which is a second-to-none priority for all of us. Looking at the value chain and our attempt not to become dependent on others, some might like to turn back time, providing battery technology in Europe a better chance. Let's anticipate these learnings for automation. For this topic, there will also be no second chance, but rather the winner takes it all, and I'd like to add, and also keep it. We have seen the rise and establishment of ecosystems by players from abroad having virtually no competitors in the Western world. In the long run, this proved to be disadvantageous to the performance and the empowerment of the demanding side, be it for consumers like us in our private life or other business customers. However, automation is in symbiotic relation with digitization and greening, the two other top issues that are driving us in Europe. That gives tailwind on one side, but increases complexity on the other. In Europe, we must realize that the technologies cannot be isolated and we better care for all of them. It is necessary to create the prerequisites in order to stand our ground, continue to enjoy the freedom to create our environment at conditions we favor. What else is of importance? The very core target of SECAM as an association is to establish large-scale demonstration, experiencing use cases and live demos, seeing is believing, as we witnessed yesterday evening as well. AVP, automated valet parking, is a good example of an incremental step offering a lot of learnings on the way towards rollout. Creating the framework for regulation and infrastructure, especially cross-border, is a must to grow from small test fleets to growing ecosystems. Here, further dedication and streamlining activities are necessary on all levels, caring for regulation to pave the ground for industry and for infrastructure providers. Diversity made us strong in Europe and is welcome, but when it comes to regulation, a rag and rainbow variety of colors does not really help to apply economies of scale and to keep prices attractive. With the state representative group, in short SRG, the SECAM initiated a valuable platform to align national interest with Europe's need to create and establish competitive technology based on harmonized approaches. I herewith like to conclude my opening of the day, looking forward to today's conference program. It provides, again, ample opportunities to interact, exchange, debate, and pave the way towards connected and cooperative automated driving technology, all for the sake of European society. Let's follow the conference tagline and drive together into the future. Let's work jointly to make it a bright one. Thank you for your attention and wishing you a very fruitful and nice day.
Thank you very much, Christian. Indeed, we do hope to have a very fruitful day of discussions here. Our next speaker served 10 years as the network's research director before being appointed as Secretary General of Polis in September 2014. Prior to that, she worked as a network manager at Access Eurocities and as a project manager at Langzaam Verkeer, a Belgian centre for mobility management. So fair to say, I think that she is steeped in urban transport networking mobility initiatives. So please, a warm welcome to Karen van Kleissen.
Good morning. Blending in very well with the European Commission blue, I think. Thank you for inviting me to share our views as Secretary General, indeed, of Polis. I represent cities and regions working together on sustainable urban mobility and innovation. So what role do cities see for automation in their future mobility ecosystem? And what role could or should they play themselves in their rollout? Cities' mobility policies and goals are very much driven by the challenges they face and need to address in the transport field. Improving air quality, reducing congestion through modal shift, making our roads safer, and decarbonizing transport. Addressing these challenges in an integrated way while also meeting the needs and expectations of users requires a systems approach that looks at public transport and active travel as the backbone of a sustainable urban mobility ecosystem and shifts away from car use in urban cores. The Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan helps cities to adopt such an integrated approach. It allows cities to develop and implement a long-term vision and to roll out integrated packages of measures that mutually reinforce each other and ideally tick several of the aforementioned policy boxes. It also provides the right framework to smartly integrate innovation in such a way that it supports policy goals rather than undermines them. Many transport innovations have been coming our way over the past years. Depending on how cities govern them, how they govern innovation and establish regulatory frameworks that maximize opportunities and mitigate negative externalities, these new technologies may or may not be delivering on the big promises they are bringing along. This is no different for automation. It will be important for cities to define the role of AVs as part of an overarching sustainable urban mobility vision and to set the right framework and regulatory conditions. Cities are becoming better equipped to deal with disruptions, and in the meantime, it has also become clear that for automation, we are no longer talking about a revolution, but rather an evolution. There will be a long transition phase, which in itself will also bring along specific challenges. When it comes to the potential role of AVs in cities, we must realize that the urban fabric is way more complex than the highway environment, characterized by a mix of different road users and vehicles, different types of roads and streets, and many unwritten and human rules and interactions and interpretations between road users. Will AVs ever be ready and fully equipped to deal with that and do that in a better way? And when will they? This question remains unanswered. Deployment promises of some years ago remain unmet, and it turns out that full automation is much harder than expected. This uncertainty about timing, maturity, and deployment scale is challenging for cities. A realistic timetable is needed that will help them to plan better. Our message is anyhow that cities should plan today for what will be arriving tomorrow. It is important to define a clear vision for AVs with realistic and measurable targets that will enable effective expectations management. Back in 2018, Polis published a position on automation in cities, pointing out opportunities but also potential pitfalls. And actually, most of these still stand today. At one of the end of the spectrum, where the private car remains an important mode of transport and the introduction of AVs is not managed, some studies suggest that there may well be a shift from sustainable modes to AVs, leading to an increase in kilometers traveled. At the other end of the spectrum, however, where the growth of AVs goes hand in hand with a rise in shared mobility to complement high-capacity public transport and active travel, there is potential for a drop in private car use and ownership. When vehicles can drive themselves without the intervention of a driver, it has been suggested that a significant amount of on-street and off-street parking could become redundant. The demands of active travel, bus priority, air quality, and the public realm have meant that the level of on-street parking is diminishing rapidly in any case, and vehicle automation may further accelerate this process. Travel time is often cited as a benefit of automated vehicles as well, and since car occupants would be able to spend the trip doing other things, having their hair done, having their nails done, I don't know, or working. One of the possible effects, however, is that trips could become longer as people move further away from their workplace. This would encourage greater car use to and within cities, leading to a further increase in kilometers travels, which is not what we are looking for. Then potential road safety benefits are a key driver for AV developments. The removal of driver distraction with vehicles that detect and avoid collisions and are programmed to comply with traffic rules hold great appeal amongst road authorities. In practice, however, ensuring compliance may not be simple because the rules, regulations, and road signs have adapted to local circumstances over the years. The safe interaction of automated vehicles with other road users, especially pedestrians and cyclists, is paramount. Ensuring the necessary level of safety may mean that automation cannot fully deliver on its potential in terms of efficiency. On the other hand, reduced speed limits and related traffic calming measures can help AVs to function well. By the time AVs will be deployed, 30 kilometers per hour will have become the new norm in urban cores. In short, new mobility solutions should respond to the real needs of cities, and that is why it is so important to strengthen their involvement. Polis invests a lot in facilitating the dialogue between cities and the industry and research sector, as well as with other levels of government, to make sure the voice of cities and regions is heard in the automation debate and in the automation deployment. We have been involved in many EU-funded R&I projects in the field and are an active member of the CCAM and 2.0 research partnerships and of ERTRAC. Next to pilots, support tools as developed in European projects are instrumental, including models to assess the likely impact of new technologies, recommendations for enabling regulatory frameworks, and a holistic assessment of the impact of AVs on the overall mobility system and on the modal shift. Polis contributes to the development of an AV readiness framework for cities through the Coexist project. Automation readiness is the capability of making informed decisions about the comprehensive deployment of AVs in a mixed road environment. This requires a clear awareness of the technology underpinning AVs, the different functional uses, and the impacts of different scenarios. It requires institutional capacity to deal with that as well. And it requires a strategic approach linking AVs to policy goals as well as user needs. So what role and responsibilities should local authorities take up in the rollout of AVs? The main lever they can work with is urban space, which they are in charge of. They can regulate access to space through urban vehicle access regulations. They can reallocate space to certain modes. They can put a price on space, and they can manage and repurpose parking. It is important also to understand that adapting urban road infrastructure to the needs of automated driving is not politically nor financially desirable for cities, given their focus on reducing car use and increasing public transport and active travel. No major changes will be made to physical infrastructure, but maybe rather to the way we use that infrastructure. It will be key to focus on low-hanging fruits first, such as the digitalization of road infrastructure and traffic regulations, and better maintenance of existing infrastructure. Investment in and planning for infrastructure should be future-proof, as it is not changed overnight. If infrastructure investments and changes are made, they need to bring benefit both to today's and tomorrow's transport systems. For example, the digital transition, improved road markings and surfaces, separate bike lanes bring short-term benefits, but also benefits for AVs. The second lever is the licensing of services for public transport, taxis, ride-hailing, etc. Also, operators have a key role to play here because they are purchasing the rolling stock. It is important, however, that cities do have these competencies, and it may not yet be like that in all cases or in all countries. So also a change in governance structures could be required. Local authorities should be involved in, or at least consulted on decisions regarding the operation of driverless vehicles on public roads in their territory. Good cooperation between different levels of government will be key to enable the paradigm shift also on the institutional level and to rightly frame the potential of AVs for different use cases. There seems to be currently an artificial divide when looking at AVs and urban transport, with a focus on shuttles and robo-taxis, but no clear discussion on passenger cars in that context. We need to look at the full picture and try to get a grip on automation in its different dimensions. It won't be easy. We face complexity, we face uncertainty, and the transition will be long, but change is happening. We need to move beyond repeated piloting and work on that integrated approach where automation plays a relevant and meaningful role and supports the sustainable urban mobility ecosystem of tomorrow. This requires capacity building, appropriate policy approaches, decision support tools, advanced multimodal network management, future-proof infrastructure, and full integration with sustainable urban mobility planning. That way, our cities can become automation ready. Automation readiness, however, should not be misunderstood as a blind endorsement of AVs, but rather as an empowerment of local authorities to critically review the anticipated technologies and the changes and shape the future according to their expectations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed.